Hello and welcome to the UK Surf Show. We are your hosts. I'm Pete.
And I'm Leighton.
It's Leighton.
Yeah. I've been here for a while.
Yes. How's it going?
Really, really shit.
Yes.
Really shit.
Yeah. So, well, I'm just going to let you speak a lot, I think, on this episode.
Yeah.
So Leighton's going to explain everything that's been going on and why he hasn't been here. And yeah.
Well, you explained it in a previous episode, didn't you? I think it was the one where you interviewed Jeremy Loops.
Yeah, that was horrible.
What, interviewing by yourself?
Yeah.
You did really well, actually. It was a really good one.
The chatting to him on his own, that was fine. I didn't mind that bit at all. But it's the intro and outro, doing that on your own.
Yeah.
Nope. Like that. I had to record it about 57 times. 'Cause I came on the first one, I was like that. Hello, welcome to the UK Surf Show.
I can imagine it's hard. And you've been dealing with all of the podcast stuff all by your lonesome.
And doesn't make any difference to normal, does it?
Well, you know what I mean. You know, like there's no ideas or anything.
I tell you what, like Mitch has been standing in, and it's been absolutely brilliant. And like people he's like thinking about talking to and stuff has been absolutely amazing. And but at the same time, nothing against Mitch because he's great. It's not the same as doing it with your mate. You know?
I suppose it has changed, isn't it? Because the reason why we started it was two mates. We've been mates forever, like talking about surfing, and we're really shit at it. You know, so that was the vibe, wasn't it? So, I mean, so a reason why, if nobody listened to the Jeremy Loops one, or you're not on Instagram either, me and my family have just had the absolute worst time. Which I feel like a family can have, really. So our little baby daughter, Effie, so she's Sophia, but we call her Effie for short. She got diagnosed with a really, really rare tumour in her spine. I might get this word wrong because I always say it, and then Rachel, my partner, goes, "No, that's not how you say it. It's called a neuroepithelial tumour."
Yeah.
And to give you an idea of how rare that is, she's the only person in the country that has it at the moment, so we've been told. And in the last 3 years, there's only been 2 other cases.
Yeah, that's mad.
The good thing with that is you get the very best people on the ball with it, and like the very best people want to be involved because of how rare it is. The bad thing is they have no experience to draw from.
Yeah.
So at time of recording, we are waiting for molecular tests on the biopsy, which they take a month, and that basically fine-tunes what treatment she can have.
Yeah.
The bad news is there's 2 types of this type of cancer, and one of them isn't treatable.
Yeah.
So at time of recording, we don't know where we are with that. She has. I'll go into even more detail on our Buy Me a Coffee for our members, because like the members have just been amazing, and the surf community have been amazing. I'll come to that as well. So me and my partner Rachel, we have been fighting since little Effie was 8 weeks old that something was wrong.
Yeah.
And we noticed her right arm shutting down. It wasn't working properly. And there's a few things which it can be, which were perfectly feasible. So one of them is called a Erb's palsy, which is nerve damage in her arm, and the other one is cerebral palsy, which is brain damage.
Yeah.
But both of those things require an event to happen, and nothing happened in the labour, and nothing happened to her at home. It's not like, she rolled off the sofa or anything like that. Nothing like that happened. We got asked that question lots, which really started to piss me off.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of implying that we'd done something at home and we're not telling them. And I know they got to ask the question, but they kept asking the question. And I'm like, this is starting to annoy me now. You stop fucking around. Yeah. There's something wrong with her, and we need to find out what it is quickly, because I'm getting worried. Anyway, there's a lot of to and fro-in, a lot of messing around, a lot of, and I'll go into more detail for our Buy Me a Coffee members, because it would just go on for ages otherwise, and I'll end up losing my temper. But to cut a long story short, we eventually managed to get the MRI we needed after a very long time, and of me losing my temper with certain hospital. To the point where I had to send emails with the word neglect in it, and as soon as that happened, things sped up.
Yeah.
And we got the MRI, and they then come back and told us there's a problem, there's something in her neck, and it's a tumour. We then ended up at Bristol Children's Hospital in the high dependency unit, and they said, we need to act quickly with this, but we need to take a biopsy first. Where it is in her neck meant they had to remove the bones on her vertebrae to get access to her spinal cord, and the tumour was within that. So your spinal cord has got like a leather sheath around it.
Yeah.
They had to cut that open to get inside to take a biopsy, which in itself is a really, really dangerous and risky operation, to the point where it could have paralysed her.
Yeah.
And at this point, she's like 4.5 months old, and it's like nearly 5 months old, and it's just like absolutely terrifying. She's like the worst luck, and like the neurosurgeon said to us, like you couldn't have seen this coming. She probably has always had it. There's nothing you have done. This is just really, really shit luck. And he swore as well. Like he said it just like that, which is kind of comfort him.
Yeah.
For some weird reason.
I think it humanises them.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was fantastic, this guy. Explains the operation. The day before the operation, him and half of the team that were going to be in the surgery. So there was going to be 17 people in the surgery, which gives you an idea of how serious this operation is.
Yeah.
Him and half of his team come down with COVID the day before.
Fucking chances.
Yeah. And we're like, this poor little girl has not got a chance, has she? Like, she's not even been given a break at all. They transferred us to Southampton Hospital for this surgery. And I've got to say, it was a blessing in disguise. Southampton Hospital, every single member of staff, even down to, I don't want to say even down to, because they do an important job as well, but down to the cleaners as well. Everybody was amazing, fantastic. I didn't have to, like, at this point, I've been arguing with hospitals to get her the right care, and when we got there, I didn't have to. They were just fantastic. And the neurosurgeon that worked on her was called Mr. Chakraborty, and he is like a world-class neurosurgeon. He's worked in Great Ormond Street and this really famous children's hospital in Canada, in Toronto, and he was her neurosurgeon. And I just can't thank him enough. He ended up doing the biopsy.
You said to me, like what you said about him.
Honestly, the guy's like a god. He's unbelievable. He really is. I'll get to like how unbelievable he is. So he did the biopsy. She come out of the operation not on a ventilator, like totally fine.
Yeah.
And we ended up going home. Well, we were there. So after the operation, she has a few days of recovery. She then got an infection. So we were in Southampton for another week. So this is like 2 weeks at this point. We then managed to go home. We were home for about 4 days, and we get a phone call from him saying, you need to come back in. The first round of the biopsy results are back. So there's like 3 rounds. You have one test in the theatre, but that is really difficult to test on like kids under 1, basically, because the tumour's young as well. So that was like inconclusive. The second round takes about a week to tell you what it is, and then the one it takes about a month for these molecular tests, which really fine tunes exactly what will affect this tumour. Yeah. Anyway, we got the information back that it was this aggressive tumour, and he said we need to act quickly. We need to remove this, and we were made aware of the risk of doing that, like removing the tumour, which is wrapped around her nerves, which are shutting her arms down. How the bloody hell do you remove something like that? So he told us how dangerous this operation was. He told us that, there is a risk that she would be paralysed and that she'd be on a ventilator. And, it was obviously difficult to hear. Yeah. And we had to sign the consent forms to say that we give consent for him to do this to her.
I haven't spoke to you about that. I bet that was a bloody...
I'll go back over a few things because I'm just telling you the overall, and I'll go into a bit more detail. But it's just the worst thing for a parent to go through, and we've had some awful conversations which no parent should ever have to talk about. And anyway, she went in to the operation. The operation was 9 hours. Bearing in mind they'd already done half the operation because she had the spines on the top of her vertebrae removed, so she doesn't have those now. Yeah. She needs an operation in the future to stabilise her neck, because I get the feeling that's where the muscles connect to. Yeah. So she's going to have something like her vertebrae fused together, so she's always going to have like a stiff neck. And it's going to be another operation in the future to stabilise her neck. Yeah. And that's, right. So anyway, she went in for this operation. This is after already lots of medication and general anaesthetics to go into an MRI. She's had a couple of MRIs by this point. He did the 9-hour operation on her. We then got a phone call to come back into hospital. They tell you to go away from the hospital for the day, which we did. Got the phone call, come back in, and he explained to us that he thinks he removed all of the tumour.
I literally, when you rang me and told me that, I think your exact words were, he's only fucking got it all out. He thinks he's got it all out. I couldn't fucking speak for about 3 hours.
No, I couldn't believe it. It was like I would have given my right arm to have that information. He said to us before the operation, he said, "There's a chance I won't get any of it out. There's a chance I might get all of it out." He said, "But realistically, it's going to be somewhere in the middle." But not only did he get it all out, he didn't damage her any further. Like, she needs a lot of physiotherapy on her arms because they aren't working properly. One is worse than the other, so she needs a lot of physiotherapy. But to come out of that operation, having major spinal surgery and not be on a ventilator and only be on intensive care for 2 days, and to be going home 4 days later is just incredible. Yeah. So we were on a bit of a high, and I think they do this on purpose to help you process. So they tell you information, help you process it, and then give you more information. So after we got told the great news that she's got it all out, and then a couple of days later he comes to check on her and he says again, right, well, yeah, it's good, it's great, but she's at the start of a very, very long and difficult road. We still need to get the results back to find out exactly what it is, and she will still need chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And it will be like intensive chemotherapy. And she will need MRIs every 3 months for like the next couple of years of her life. And then it will go down to like every 6 months and then every year. And this looks like that's going to be her life for like 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's like really different. But, you know, she's been given a chance.
Yeah.
Where before we didn't have one.
Yeah.
We kind of didn't think there was going to be any chance at all. And then he told us about the operation to stabilise her neck and all this kind of stuff, and which, you know, you're trying to process, and then we get told. So at time of recording, literally like yesterday, we get told that we got to go and have a meeting next week to discuss the chemotherapy and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Which we knew was coming. You're like, right, okay. Still no molecular tests back. Should be back next week. So at time of recording, we still don't know. They then told us, like, we want to prepare you for what this meeting's going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that she will be an inpatient of the Children's Hospital, so back in Bristol, for 6 months. It's the most intensive chemotherapy you can have, and it's going to be really, really difficult. She will have like a week of chemo drugs, and then a week of being on an IV to flush her kidneys.
Yeah.
And then the 2 weeks after that, before they start the process again, is fighting things like infections that she's going to get, and just making sure she's well. If she is well and deals with it well, she can come home when she's well. She's got to have an operation to put a special line in, so they've got constant access to her bloods and delivering the chemo. And on top of all this, it's multiple MRIs, which she needs to go in the general anaesthetic for because she's, you know, so young and she'll move.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been the hardest time I've ever known. Like, I still can't comprehend what's happening to us.
Yeah.
And what's happening to her. So what's going to happen for me with the show is I'm going to be taking the time off for the foreseeable. So I'm definitely not going to be able to do anything in the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to see what happens after that. And
yeah. Well, I think everyone listening will understand that.
yeah,
you know, like family comes first over anything. So, you know, and I mean, the support, like, I cannot believe the support. So we set up the GoFundMe page.
Yeah. Well, this is the other thing I wanted to say, because in all this, like, you realise, like, the friends that you have, how good they are. So, like, Spoons and you had set up this GoFundMe for us to help us, because, like, the time down in Southampton, so in total, it was broken up with a week in between. In total, we're there for 3 weeks. I spent $2,500 in those 3 weeks, because you can't prepare any food. There's parking to pay. There's fuel to pay.
Fucking parking to pay. Don't get me started on that. To pay at the hospital. So
you do get help with that when you're there. But I didn't really. Nobody told me that for the first week, I think. So they can backdate it for a certain amount, but for like. It's like £15 a day. That's
fucking ridiculous to have to pay.
But then once I found out that you could get like a bit of a permit, it was like a tenner for a week or something like that, which is fine. But because it's Southampton, it's expensive, and there really isn't much around the hospital unless you're going to go into like the city.
Yeah.
Everything is extortionate, and so the only places you can eat, they've got like an M&S cafe in there. And I'd go there and I'd get, you know, like the only vegan option there was like a jacket potato with beans. So I'd buy me and
sourdough bread.
Oh, don't get me started with sourdough bread. I'll go into that. So
tell the story. Go on. Please tell the story about sourdough bread.
Okay. So anyway, the only vegan option was like this. Beans and jacket potato, and I'd order it, and it'd be like, they're like, that's like £14, please. I'm like, what? What? I'd only ordered 2. They're like, no, it's £14. I'm like, what the hell is going on? So it got to the point where I couldn't eat. I had too much to deal with. I didn't have the mental capacity to worry about the bloody money as well. I just thought, it doesn't. I need to feed us. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. I sort of out afterwards. And you and Spoons started this GoFundMe. And the surfing community have just been absolutely incredible. And I really, like, I wasn't going to do, we weren't going to do this tonight, were we? I was going to just write a statement for you to read. Yeah. But after the kind messages, people donating money to help us out, I feel like I owed something to everybody. I know this is no way of repaying what everybody's done, but honestly, if it wasn't for people helping us and the kind messages that we've been getting, I have no idea we would have made it through the time in Southampton at all. Yeah. And like, even down to, like, you don't really realise how much you need help until it happens. Yeah. So this is like, there was one day when we found out that she had an infection and we had to go back into Southampton, and you and Spoons come down without me saying to come down or anything. You just turned up. Yeah,
because we knew if you said we're going to come down, you just said, don't worry about it, save your money, don't spend on money on petrol.
It's like a 5-hour round trip on a good day, you know, like no traffic.
Day out, innit?
And you turned up and you two gave me a hug, and I didn't realise, but I never needed a hug so much in all my life. It was like quite emotional when you guys did that. And I know I only saw you for like 5 minutes, which I felt really bad for because we had to quickly get back in hospital. But it was 5 minutes I really, really needed. Yeah. So, yeah, I really appreciate you and Spoons doing that and everything you've done with setting up this GoFundMe, and then just like, you know, like you've been sending me messages that people have been sending on the surf show thing, and there is a thing with like those positive vibes that people send. It's almost like you can feel them. It's really strange. And they've definitely helped. Like, there's been some, obviously the whole thing has been a dark time, but there's been some really dark times. And when you're in those dark times and you just like, because you can't do anything, you'll just sit there being useless. So you're just scrolling on your phone a lot of the time just to pass the time while you're waiting for the results of another test or to see a certain doctor. And then you get a message, some uplifting message, or even ones where people go, we think about you every day. Yeah. And it does help. Like, it helps way more than what I think the people that send them realise. Yeah, I think they don't.
Well, it's like Phil said before, you know, he said that thing about sending a message could make someone's day. So if he thinks about someone, he'll send them a message or ring them.
What I wanted to say, like, a special thanks to Phil as well. He's been incredible. So this is Phil, the head of the Christian Surfers. Like, I'm not religious or anything, and so I understand this is how he shows how he is thinking of you. And so the stuff he's done it's just been amazing, and I really, really appreciate him. I've sent him messages like saying, you know, how much he's helped and stuff. So just putting me in contact with people that he knows in Southampton and stuff like that has just been really nice of him. Him like doing prayers, and I think the Christian Surfers worldwide said a prayer for Effie and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And you know, things like that, just people showing how they care is really, really nice. And yeah, I've been kind of blown away with how amazing the surf community is. Yeah. I mean, I don't know when I'm going to be surfing again. Because
I went for a surf last week.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like you say,
I haven't been in ages. There's no way I'm going in the next 6 months at least.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
And this is. I mean, this is the bit that is really scary, I think, if that's the right word. I don't know how to enjoy anything at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I think that was before we said anything and we knew sort of there was stuff going on, and you said on an earlier podcast that you're sort of fallen out of love with surfing at the moment, and I think that's partly because of everything that was going on building up to finding out that I could see you weren't getting enjoyment in anything at all, because everything was focused and worried, which is understandable. And I mean, for everyone around you is the same sort of thing, where everyone feels completely useless, and the amount of messages that we've had on the Surf Show Instagram saying if there is anything we could do, and like, not a message of like, oh, if there's anything I can do, let me know, you know, which is a normal message. Like, people actually going, if there's anything we can do, anything at all, even if it's do anything at all, will help you.
There's been a few standout people that I'd like to say thanks to. One is Zoe, who's Mama Mello on Instagram, and she's been a listener, like an avid listener for ages, and we've now become like friends, haven't we? Like, I went surfing with her the other day. Yeah, and her partner as well, Gareth.
Yeah.
The messages they've been sending me have just been so lovely, and I really, really appreciate that. It's sort of like a special thank you to them, because there's been a lot of dark times, and they just send the message at like the right time. It's really, really weird. It's almost like you are connected with some people through like the universe somehow. And also Paz, who was the winner of the competition we did. He's been really, really lovely as well, and like, was such a nice guy. I will meet up with them all one day. I mean, it's not going to be in the next 6 months by the looks of it, because it looks like we're going to be pretty much living in hospital. I mean, that's the other side of it, is like what our life looks like in the next 6 months, watching what our daughter has to go through. I mean, she's only 6 months old now. And obviously I'm worried about her. I'm really struggling to get my head around how a little body deals with all that. And I know kids are resilient and stuff, but bloody hell, she hasn't half gone through it, and it's the most heartbreaking thing in the world. I've never known pain like this before. It's almost unbearable. And that's a scary thought as well. And like there's just like a twist of the knife wherever you look. So one of them is obviously seeing her go through this. The other one is seeing Rachel, her mum, have to deal with this as well. And then, you know, like Effie's not just our daughter, she's also a granddaughter, a half-sister, a niece. And watching all these people around her just breaking their hearts, it's just like the pain is just tenfold. It just keeps increasing wherever you look. And I struggle with that. I really struggle with that. I mean, I'm struggling with all of it. And you get messages from people which, and I know people are trying to help when they say stuff like this. And they're saying, oh, you know, hang in there. You guys are being really brave. You know, you're really strong to be going through this. And it gets me a little bit cross, because I feel completely useless. There's no bravery here. I'm not doing, when me and Rachel aren't doing anything exceptional. We are useless. We're just here. You know, we're just existing next to her. We're struggling. There's no strength in that at all.
I think the strength in that honestly comes from just being there with your daughter and her having a familiar face with her. And you not giving up. That's the strength and bravery.
The only reason why that is because we don't have a choice. There's no choice in any of this. We are there because she's our daughter, and anybody would do it. I mean, Effie's mum, my partner Rachel, is just a force of nature, and she has not left her side. There's been a couple of nights like she stayed in hospital the whole time. There's been, over all this time, there's been 2 nights that I've managed to convince her to go away and get some rest, and I'll stay in hospital with her. And that was the hardest thing in the world for her to do. But she was absolutely exhausted. Yeah. And that was the only time I managed to convince her to do that. And that was hard to convince her to leave her. And the whole time she's ringing and texting and stuff. And she is... I don't even know how she's still standing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how people can run on that little energy and that little sleep, but she's still going, and it's just kind of something to behold. She really is a lioness looking after her cub.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, going back to what you're saying about sourdough bread.
So it was like, right, so let me put this, like, so knowing Leighton for all these years, Leighton can get angry sometimes about things that seem very trivial or unimportant, but with everything that was going on, understandably, this was amplified.
Yeah, I've got so I've got a lot of rage in me, particularly at this time, and we've been assigned psychologists to help us deal with this. Particularly, we've been assigned psychologists because there's like a huge file on us in these hospitals now, because they know everything we've been through to even get to this point.
Yeah.
The fight that what we've had to do or make to get to this point has been unbelievable, like unbelievably, shockingly awful that a 6-month-old baby has been left in pain for this long and nobody's been listening to the parents.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that as like an overall NHS thing, because they've been amazing, but there's just been a few times when I've had to lose my temper with a certain hospital, which I won't mention because that's not fair. So as like a side effect of all that, I'm still furious.
Yeah.
And it comes out in really strange ways. So the hospital food isn't very good, and they don't feed me, they just feed Rachel.
Yeah.
And for some reason in the mornings they don't do toast. It's meant to be toast, but it's warm bread.
Yeah.
And they just literally pick up the toast, show it to something lukewarm, and then put it on a plate and give it to you. And Rachel needs to be nourished. She's still breastfeeding through all this, you know, which is amazing. So when Effie can't physically breastfeed, Rachel will express and like give it to the neurosurgeons for when she goes down to the an operation. Yeah. She's got breast milk as soon as she comes out and all that kind of stuff. You know, like Rachel's just been unbelievable with all that kind of stuff. You imagine having to do all that this whole time and deal with everything. So I need to make sure Rachel's fed properly, because it will then feed down to Effie. So she couldn't eat this toast. She just couldn't do it because, you know, I suppose you're feeling nauseous anyway for all this. So I would go down to the cafe and get her the sourdough toast in the mornings. And I went down this one morning and they're like, "I'm sorry, we don't have toast." I'm like, "You mean you don't have bread?" And they're like, "Yeah." I said, "Right, okay. All right, don't worry. I'll go somewhere else." And there's also a Costa there. So I queued up in the Costa, really long queue. I'm about halfway through with like a bundle of stuff in my arms. And I can feel the rage building up inside me, the fact they don't have bread. And there is an M&S shop next door that has bread, but the cafe doesn't have bread. And Rachel needs to eat like better. And I snap and storm out of the queue, throw the bundle of stuff I've got on my arms back in the fridge at Costa, or like the refrigerated bit, storm back to M&S and I go, "Can I just get this right a minute? 90% of your menu has bread on it and you don't have bread, and next door there's an M&S with fucking bread in it, and you can't go and get that and put bread on your menu? And I'm like, yeah, that's right. And honestly, I'd never been so close to punching someone over fucking bread before, so I had to leave. I then caught myself thinking, Jesus Christ, look at the rage that's inside you at the moment, that you're, getting this angry because you can't get toast,
Yeah.
So hence the reason why we got psychologists to help us through this.
Yeah, when you're saying to me it's coming out in rage and like that story, it is funny telling that story, but I mean, like, it's understandable at the time, everything that was going on as well. But it's just one other thing where the world makes absolutely no sense, where you're part of the same group. You're both Marks and Spencer's. You're a Marks and Spencer's cafe and a shop. Why can't you? They just give you the bread and you give it back.
What I should have done is gone in and bought the bread,
and
cut it up myself, and can you put that in that hot thing over there for me? Yeah. And it'll be like a fraction of the cost as well. But yeah, it's just like stupid that you end up getting angry over things like that. So I've caught myself a few times now. But I'm still Southampton. Like I said, were amazing. But after everything we've been through to get to that point, I'm still in fight mode now. Like when something happens, I question everything now. Like, why is that happening? Yeah. Like, why aren't you doing this yet? I suppose that's just because of the way we've been dealt with up until this point. Yeah. And like I said, I don't want to say the hospital, but I will go into more detail on the Buy Me a Coffee for our members, because I need to get it out as well. It's weirdly, like, a lot of people shut down with all this stuff. I find it helpful talking about it.
Yeah.
And like replying to people's messages when I could. So like, there's been a few people, one of which I need to apologise to actually was Noah from Velamo Surf. He sent me a nice message like, thinking of you, mate, everything's all right. And because he was the first message in what I'd do in an evening after I left Rachel in the hospital, because only one parent was allowed to stay, I would then have to, we got a family member that lives in Hamble, which is like 35 to 40 minutes away. I would drive and stay there for the night and then get up dead early to get back for the ward rounds. So when I'd get home, or not home, but back there at like 10 o'clock at night or whatever, after I showered and fed and all that kind of stuff, I would try and reply to as many messages that I don't know, you get loads. It's been so amazing. But I'd try and reply to as many as I could. And this one night, Noah was the first one on the list, and I just unloaded to him one night, just like really depressed, really down, unloaded. And afterwards I sent him a message, I'm really sorry, mate, you were just the first one that I replied to. And after I like unleashed, and I couldn't reply to anybody else afterwards. But the support we've been getting is just unbelievable. And like, if there's any doubt of any surfer in the surfing community that it's not a nice place to be, you're wrong. Like, when the shit hits the fan, everybody's been amazing, really have. Like Sophie Everard, Sophie Mad to Live, like when we interviewed her, so we kind of like stayed in contact a little bit after that interview, and she's been sending me lovely messages and stuff, and she's just like come back off her honeymoon as well, and I'm like, I'm really sorry to talk to you about this stuff, but and everybody's just been amazing, and particularly our friends, and we like realised like how loved we are and how loved Effie is, and out of all this, that's the one thing I can see as the positive, is you realise how much people care for you, and how much how Effie is only 6 months old but has affected so many people already.
Well, I think everyone loves Effie and Rachel.
It's probably true.
It's the support has been absolutely out of this world, and like I thought, like that, I was going to read a statement out for you, and then you were like, no, I think I'd do it myself, and I thought like this would be the best, just for you to say what's been going on. So moving forwards, Leighton's obviously not going to be on the podcast for the foreseeable, but if there is any opportunity when he can record, we will. Mitch has said he'd step in. Chris, I've got said from Logfin Co said he'll step in. Yeah. Alan's offered again. Yeah, because we did that one with me, Mitch, Alan, and Logan, which everyone said was quite a laugh as well. Yeah.
I've been listening to it.
Is it weird listening to it?
Yeah, it is. It feels, I don't know, because of everything that's going on. It just weird. It feels like I'm listening to, like I'm actually listening to your podcast now. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like. Not in a bad way, like I'm part of it, but it feels like it's like a bit of a separate thing now. Yeah. And that's just because I'm in this world of shit at the moment.
Yeah. So, like, as I say, moving forwards, Leighton's not going to be around for a while. I am going to take a little break because I haven't had one yet from the podcast, just for a few weeks or something like that. In that time... So yeah, it would be like a couple of episodes off or something. Yeah. So in that time, I think I've got a few to record with Mitch as well. And Mitch and I will be updating the Buy Me Coffee and stuff like that, all that sort of stuff and everything like that. As Leighton said, he'll go into the Buy Me Coffee one more on the bonus episode of this. Yeah. And I think unless there's anything else you want to say.
No, it's just I'm kind of glad you're taking a break because I know you've been struggling a little bit with all this. So out of all this, I think you've sent me a message every single day, and it said, because you call me Tor, so my nickname is just the worst nickname ever. It's Lecter, which makes me sound like some kind of criminal.
So the nickname came from, Leighton's surname Smith, so it was Hannibal Smith from
which
the
I
18.
Loved. Hannibal was a great
Hannibal
nickname.
Smith. Then it was Hannibal Lecter, and then Lecter, and that just evolved over the years. Yeah. And then now I call him anything with the word Tor in it. So I'll ring him up, say like alligator, navigator, whatever, anything Tor is. That's how I refer to him. So
you send me a message, and I think you've done it every day, and it's like hi Tor, how's it going today? Every single day, and that's been really nice. And I'm
not crying, you're crying.
I do really appreciate that because like I get lots of messages and I only reply to a certain amount of people now, like the closest people to us, and you're the one that sent me a message every single day in hospital, so I do really appreciate that, Pete. Thanks.
Whatever. Anyway,
just can't deal with it, can you? You just can't deal with the emotional side of it, can you?
No. Well, you used to say, you used to call me Blackheart, and I've come to a conclusion that, I'm definitely not. Yeah. But yeah, it's been a very a roller coaster of emotions times. I mean, like I said, like when you told me, like. First of all, I think it was when you told me I was bloody crying because of what you told me in the first place, of what was going on, and then through the different stages of it, and then when you rang me, and I think there's one time I spoke to you on the phone, and in amongst it I had to get a new car because someone kindly wrote my car off, it was just parked outside my house. Nice. And I was at a garage, and you rang me and spoke to me, and I was trying to speak to you, and I just couldn't get the words out. I was like, I'll speak to you later. And then you rang me and told me like that the surgeon had got it all out, which was the bit that when you said the surgeon, and you were like, I said to the nurse, that surgeon's a god. And what did she say? Yeah,
so she after he told us the news that he got it all out and he left, which like the chances of that happening were really, really slim. Like nearly impossible for him to get it all out, and he did. And he said, obviously he can't see every single cancer cell, hence the reason why she's got to go through chemo still. Yeah. And because of the nature of the tumour, it needs to be intensive chemo. But when he left the room after he told us that information, I said to the nurse, like, he's just amazing. Like, what he's done for her, he's given her a chance when she had none at all. And she said, you have no idea how often this guy does this. The amount of people or children that come through here, because he's a paediatric neurosurgeon.
Yeah.
She said the amount of people that come through here and the odds that they're given are really, really slim to even make it through the operation. And he, not only do they get through the operation, they go home the week later.
Yeah.
She said it happens more often than not. The guy is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And for us to have access to someone like that in the NHS, for all of us, it is just unbelievable. It's so good. Like, we're forever in his debt. And we are, in this country, we are really, really lucky to have this NHS. And I know, like, it feels like it's being dismantled a little bit, and we can't let it happen.
No.
Because I heard a podcast about health service before. I think it's a Joe Rogan podcast. And I can't remember who he was talking to. It was some doctor. He's some kind of medical episode. And he put it in a really good way, this doctor. He said, he was talking about the UK and comparing it to the USA. And he said, right, in the UK, it's financially beneficial that the patients are well, because it's a national health service. In America, it's financially beneficial that the patients are ill because it's insurance.
Yeah.
And so, like, in simple terms, if there's any argument to save the NHS and invest more, it's that, isn't it? You know, that it's better for everyone if the patients are better. And if you're getting into healthcare, it shouldn't. Why is money even a thing? You know, me and Rachel were talking about it. If we lived in America and she had the operation she had, we're bankrupt. You know, it would be. It's. I don't even know how it works really with the insurance company, but it would be like hundreds of thousands of pounds to have what she's had done. So we are so lucky in this country. Yeah. We really are, and we need to protect it. And I know some of the people that listen to the podcast at Surfers are also in the NHS, and I just like, you're all amazing. You're absolutely amazing. And we saw firsthand how amazing people are. So they're like superhuman. Like, on that ward that we were on, a paediatric neuro ward.
Yeah.
And now we're going to be on a paediatric oncology ward, which is going to be hard to be there and see all these ill kids and stuff. But the people that work there are phenomenal. They really are. And we can't thank them enough. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's it, pretty much.
Yeah.
Apart from the fact, I've got to tell you one thing. When I went surfing, I had to do my first selfie.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that you sent me. So, yeah, somebody asked to meet you. Is that right?
So, I was going to meet Zoe, and she's friend. So, a load of them are friends on one of Alan Adrenaline Athlete's apps.
Yeah.
Where they all talk, or it's a WhatsApp group or something, who all do the training stuff. And Angie, so hello to Angie, she listens to the show all the time, and she was in Saunton meeting Zoe, and I was coming to meet Zoe, and Zoe didn't tell her I was coming because she knew how much of a fan of this show she was. And I rocked up and said hello, and she went,
a very awkward photo taken.
Yeah.
You sent me, it actually cheered me up, but it's like one morning when we were in hospital, obviously, and you sent me a message saying, like you normally do, how's it going, mate? And then you'd said, this will make your day. Look at this awkward photo of me. And it's you, like, posing for a selfie.
Well, she said to me, I bet you get to ask for selfies all the time, don't you? And I was like, no, it's weird. But no, that was a weird moment. I've never had anyone do that to me before. Yeah. Like, I'm bad enough when someone like my mum goes, let me take a photo of you. No, go away.
Well, when we were back home for the week in between the hospital stays in Southampton, I'm filled with rage, obviously. Then I'm driving the van, which has got surf show stickers on it, and I pull up at a roundabout, and a car pulls up next to me, and the passenger is shouting out the window at me, and I'm ready to. I'm in fight mode already, like road rage. I wind it down, and I'm ready to like fire some fucks, and before, luckily, I didn't, and the lady goes, "Loves the show," and then drives off, and because she must have noticed me and the van with the stickers.
This brings it back to what I say when you've got road rage. If you're going to road rage, take them stickers off your van, please. Oh yeah, but, I met those UK surf show guys. He told me to fuck off on a roundabout.
But I'm in a heightened state of anger.
Yeah.
Which I need to sort quickly.
Yeah. Well. So I think that'll do for this episode.
Yeah, I know. It's maybe put like a trigger thing at the start. I don't want people to go, "Oh, a new episode," and listen to it and go, "Oh, for fuck's sake."
Yeah. So it is what it is. It's what's been happening. People that have shared our journey along the way and have listened to the podcast will be interested in what's happening in your life and why things are different and what it's like moving forward. So that's pretty much it. I'll see you in miss a few episodes, so it'd be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know. I know I'll be back with Mitch. We've got some to record. Basically, that will just give me time to play catch up on getting back to recording, and because I've got nothing else recorded at the moment. We've got guests that we've agreed to come on the show and stuff, but just haven't got back to any of them at the moment because everything's been going on. I didn't know what was happening. So Leighton will be around at some point, and I suppose if he's got time to dip in and out, he can come in whenever he wants. And thank everyone out there for your continued support.
Yeah, really appreciate. It's the people that have donated to the GoFundMe. You have no idea how much you've helped us, and the messages that we've received have just been amazing. Like me and Rachel have been sat around the hospital bed, and I've just been reading the messages to her, and it's helps more than you can possibly imagine. So I really thank you to everybody.
Yeah. So that's it. So more than ever, until the next time, take care of yourselves and each other.
See you later.